Okay, so today's daf is Masechus Nazir Daf Daled. We are basically smack in the middle of the Amid where the Gemara says Iboilahu by the two dots. Yesterday we finished told the two dots because it was more or less part of the whole sugya, so we just finished it up. So the Mishnah said that a Nazir that becomes Tameh with one of the tumas that it lists is Megaleach. So if guy's a middle Naziris becomes Tameh. There's certain tumas that he is megaleach on, certain tumas that don't matter, he's not megaleach on. So the Mishnah said that when he becomes tameh with a tumah that makes him megaleach, so he has to be spritz from the dami for a para. Okay, so the maza on him, not from dami for para, from the efer para aduma on the third day and the seventh day. And then the Mishnah said, "Ve'enim aschel limnois," he does not start counting a fresh new naziris because he was soiser naziris until he becomes tahar. After there maz on him the mechatos, and he brings karbanis, which is the 8th day. So zok the Gemara here, iboilu b'nei yeshiva masopik. Hadik Tani, this is it says in the Mishnah that is Einim Maschel Achi Tar. It does not start counting a new Naziris until it becomes Tar. Bashvi Koi. So does the Mishnah mean that on the 7th day it becomes Tar, then of his Tahira, when he's mad the 7th day, that it does not start counting until Ada Ovid Harav Shemesh. So in other words, after he has Azah Shlishi Shvi, and then he has to have Harav Shemesh when the sun goes down on the 7th day. So that's when you say his Yemei Tahira are complete, and Umani, and then he could start counting a new Nazir. So Umani, which sheet is that going like? Who holds like that? So the Gemara, that is sheets of Beleza. It says that a Nazir becomes Tameh, could start counting the Nazir's Tahira after the end of his Tahira on the 7th day. So even though he did not bring his Karbanis on the 7th day, why? Because the halacha is that you bring the Karbanis on the 8th day. But he could start counting from Desvegen on the 7th day, like Shitz Rebelezer. So this is the Mishnah says, Eine Maschel Limnus Naziris Achitar means on the 7th day. And then Achar Mekani, maybe it's Karbanos, so it means on the 8th day he brings his Karbanos. So that's one side of the Gemara. Idoma Zot Gemara Bashmini Koi. That the Mishnah means that Eine Maschel Limnos, the Achitar means not that he killed on the 7th day, rather on the 8th day, because he brings karbanos on the 8th day. Umayachi tara chiyavi karbanos. This is what it says in the Mishnah. Achi tara means until you bring the karbanos. So in other words, you will not start counting a new naziris of tahira until he brings karbanos the 8th day. Umani, and whose sheet is that? Rabbanan he that hold that he starts counting from the 8th day. So basically, it's a machlekes Rabbanan and Rabbi Lezer. So according to this side, you bring it on the 8th day, it's sheets Rabbanan. So Zok the Gemara will be poshit from the Mishnah later on, which to one of these studies, because Tashma, we learned on the Mishnah on the base. The Tani Seif, it says in the Mishnah, it discusses the different tumas that another is not megalech on those types of tumas. So it says Maschol Moyin Miyad. It starts counting the zeros right away, and it's on the 7th day. Why? Because we're talking about the zeros that the Mishnah over there is counting the zeros that another is not megalech on. And it says it starts counting right away. So it can't be the 8th day because no havas karbanas in that Mishnah. In that case, in that Mishnah that was discussed. So Muzayin is the 7th day. So the Gemara is being medayik hareisha mayachitar chiyav. So that's in the Seifa where we're talking about tumas that you're not megalecha and you do it on the 7th day. But hareisha achitar means that chiyav karbanos until he actually brings karbanos, which would be the 8th day. Mani rabbanan, he was going like sheets rabbanan. I'm in the ziris tahira achmini lechal. He holds the ziris tahira is not chal until the 8th day. So you see from that, and the ziris tahira is not chal until the 8th day. And this is the Mishnah says that it doesn't start counting Achi Tara means the 8th day, and that's the raya that the Gemara is bringing from the Sefer and Mishnah on all the days. Okay. Zak the Mishnah. So the Mishnah before Memtes and Beis said that there's types of tumas that if a nazir becomes tamei with them, then it's so serious Yemei Naziris that he counted until now, and he has to megaleach and bring a asham nazir tameh, and after that he goes back and starts counting again Yemei Nazir Tahira. So that's a typical Naziris the Mishnah was discussing before. Now the Mishnah over here is going to say that avo haschachos, a nazir that becomes tameh, not al yidei typical tameh meis with oil real tamah, rather than he becomes nazir, he becomes tameh al yidei schachos. So it means he went under a tree that has a kazayis of a mace on it, and he went under those branches, under one of the branches of the tree that tree has a kazayis mace on it. Also, what happens if v'haprois, he became tameh al yidei prois, and he went under stones that were sticking out from like a fence, and it had a kazayis from a mace under one of the stones, and he went under that area where there were stones. The Beis HaPras, and he became, if let's say he became Tameh al Yidei going into a Beis HaPras. So what's a Beis HaPras? A sada, a field that had a grave in it, and it got plowed up. So now it got plowed up in the field. You don't know where the Tameh is because it got plowed up. So that's the halacha is there also. Same halacha. The Eretz Ha'amim, if he went into Chutz La'aretz, Chachamim were Goyzer Tumah, and anybody that goes into Chutz La'aretz. Vahagoylol, and somebody that touches a goylol. So what's a goylol? A goylol is the matzeva that's put on top of a grave, a kever. Vahadoifik, and somebody that touches the doifik, which are the stones from both sides of the kever, which the matzeva stands on. The revius dam, and somebody that touches or carries a revius dam from a mace, the oil, the roiva atzamas, and somebody that's mal has an oil has an oil with bones of a mace, but not a lot of bones. He has a shear of roiva kav, which is really smaller than the typical shear he's supposed to have. He's supposed to have a chatzi kav atzamas. He only has a roiva kav. The kalim anoigim mace, or he touches kalim that touch the mace, or that are touching the mace. Umei sifra, umei gamroi. Umei safra, umei gamroi. So the halacha is a guy that has a din of him mitzvah is a mitzvah muchlot. The halacha is he has to sit b'chutz lamachna until he heals from his tzaras, and these days are called yemei gamroi. Okay. So after he gets healed from tzaras, the halacha is he brings tutzi parim, and he's megaleach, and he goes inside the machna, and he has to sit. The halacha is he has to sit chutz lahaloi shivas yamim, outside his oil 7 days until he brings karbanos. So those days, once he's in the machna, but he's sitting chutz lahaloi, so the 7 days before he's bringing karbanos, that's called yemei safrei. So the Mishnah is talking about a nazir that became a mitzvah in the middle of his naziris, and he has to sit b'chutz lamachane and then count 7 days after. So the 7 days that he's b'chutz lamachane, those are yemei gamroi, so the time that he's sitting with chutz la'machnas may suffer, and the time that he's before his avos kabanos is chutz la'oil, that's yemei gamrei. So Zakta Mishnah, if a nazir has this yemei suffer, yemei gamrei, he does not have to megaleach on those days. And it's not such as this. Al elu ina nazir megaleach, like a din nazir shenitma umaze b'shlishavi v'maisa b'kol makom. He still has to spritz from the ephra apara aduma in order to be tar from his tumas mace that he became tummy with. So he still has to go through that process of azah shlishi shvi, although he does not have a ding to be megaleach, and it's not tzaiser zazirus. Zakta mishavai to the ene tzaiser is yom hakoyim. It's not tzaiser. It's hakoyim. It's not. It doesn't cancel out the days he counted the zirus till now. So let's say he's counted 15 days, and then this happened. He could just after he becomes Torah, he could just continue on. Maschol Maina Miyad, he starts counting the Naziris after he becomes Torah from his Tumah, from where he left off. So he left off the 15th day, he continues the 16th. The carbon ein loy, and also a carbon nazir does not have to bring, because only by tumas meis gemura that is midaleach on, that's when it's chayiv karbanis. Okay, so there's a tali zebizet. Zok the Mishnah Vayter, that the Mishnah is going to say now that there are cases of tumas nazir, that even his days of tumah count for his days of nazirus. B'chiddush, the MS Amru. So they said is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That's how the Rambam explains. But MS Amru means halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That Yemei Hazav v'Hazava, that a woman or a man or a woman that started counting Yemei Naziris and they became Zavim, and they have to wait until it finishes the Yemei Hazava and count 7 days. Yemei Askerish Motzayra, a Nazir that got Saras on him, and they locked him up for 7 days to see what was going to happen. So those 7 days, I think the days of Zava, that they have to wait till the ziva stops. Hare elu oiloi, they count for Yemei Naziris. Zok the Gemara. The Mishnah said that there's types of tumah that are called schachos and praois, and those are not metame enough to have giluach and to bring karbanis and to be seis in Naziris. So Zok the Gemara, the eluhen aschachos. What does aschachos mean? So Gemara, Elon HaMesach Ala, it's a tree that's bending over to the ground, and under one of the branches there's a kazayis from a mace. And Chacham Goizer Tuma, anybody that goes under this branch, that it becomes Tamei D'Rabbanan. The price, Hayotz Managada. What does Tumas price mean in the Mishnah? It means if you have stones that are sticking out of a wall, like let's just say a fence or a wall, and there's tumah under one of the stones, Chacham Goizer also in that case, that anybody that goes under those stones becomes Tamei, it's a Tamei D'Rabbanan. Tosfos says, Af ki safek tumah b'shus harabim svei ketar. The halacha at safek tumah b'shus harabim svei ketar. So apparently it's a safek tumah b'shus harabim. I guess it's a safek because it's not a real oil. I mean, it's not, oil is really when it's closed off. L'chayra, I would say pashut pshat. But if you have one stone sticking out or one branch of a tree, and under that, it's not really an oil because the branches are not all connected. It's a bunch of separate branches. You didn't necessarily walk under an oil. Now, as I state in Tosfos to Ramaschal Elon HaMesach Ala Aretz, Tosfos brings from Perek Dam Nida and Nida Daf Zayin and Alf, that Midoi Raisa, it's not an oil ma'al yosh, hanofim rechoikim zemizeh, because the branches are far from each other, and there's no pesach tefach. That's all. You have to have pesach tefach. Af kiesh v'vadi kazayis mez, although there is for sure kazayis mez under one of the branches. Because we went under all them, and our bottom just goes to tumah b'halach tachdom. Okay, so Zok the Gemara Vayter. The Mishnah said, ve'era ta'amim, if somebody goes in the chutzlar, it's matame. So the Gemara brings a suffix. Yibayalahu, tumah that the chacham gozer era ta'amim, is a mishuma vira gozer aleh. The chacham gozer that all the ear is tamei, and mainly even somebody goes into eretz ha'am, the chutzlar, in a closed up box that's choitzes b'fnei tamah, he still becomes tamei because he was technically in the ear of chutz la'aretz. Oy doma clarity gemara mishum gusha gazer oleh. They were gozer that the ground, the offer on chutz la'aretz Torah becomes mace, and some of it's mahel on the afer becomes Torah. But if you go in a shida table, migdal, a box or something, a cone, which is choitzes b'fnei tamah, in that case, it would be tar because the gezerah wasn't on going into the space of chutz la'aretz. It wasn't going. It was on being mal on the ground. So Gemara has been paisha from a Mishnah. Tash mazak the Gemara. We learned in a Mishnah. Umaze b'shlishi b'shvi. Yes, the maze b'shlishi b'shvi, and it's talking about somebody that goes in the eretz ha'amim. And if you want to say that the tumah chacham goes on eretz ha'amim is mishum avira, that the whole chalal avir, the whole space, the ear of chutz la'aretz comes to me. Even somebody that goes in a teva, it's chutz v'nei tamah. So frekting Gemara azam al azal lamali. How come somebody that goes into Eretz Am needs to have Hazah from Eifar Para? L'chor, the din Hazah is not said only by Tumas Meis. And Tumas Eretz Amim is not al Tumas Meis, because if somebody goes in a box, then it's not possible to have Tumas Meis. You don't become Tummy. Because somebody goes in a box, it's chutz for Tumas Meis. So El Alav and Behechus, like the Gemara, has to be that the Gezer that Chacham made on going to Chutz La'aretz, outside Eretz Yisrael, going in, is because of Gusha. They said that no, the dirt on the ground is all tummy. As Tumas Meis. That's what they said. Because of mason that are buried in the ground. So Mela, that's why it makes sense. That's why you have to have Havzah from Eifar Para, like a regular din Tummy Meis. That's Pshat. So if the Mishnah says that you have to have Havzah, it's Eifar Tummy Meis, so that would make sense that it's al Mishum Gusha. So the Gemara says, no, you have no raya. Loy. Avada, it's not a raya from this Mishnah, from this halacha of Mishnah. I could tell you that the Gezeres Chachamim on Eretz Ha'amim is Mishum Avira. And there's taka no chashash on this Tumas Meis. And somebody that goes into Eretz Ha'amim does not need Hazah Eifar Para Aduma. So what do you mean? We just bought the Mishnah that says you have to have Hazah from Eifar Para Aduma. What's Pshat? So at the Gemara v'chikatani, when we say in the Mishnah that these Tumas need to have Hazah as Eifar Para Asha'ara. It's going on the other Tumas that the Mishnah counts, that the Tumas are as chashash Tumas Meis. But Avada, this Tuma over here, that's Eretz Ha'amim, the Mishnah said Hazas Eifar Para wasn't talking about this Tuma. It was talking about other Tumas of the Mishnah list, which are Takal Tumas Meis. So that's the Gemara wants to Yamadcha, right? Zok the Gemara, Hachinam Mistavra. It's also Mistavra to say like this. Why? I mean, the Tani, because it says, included in the Tumas of Mishnah, of a Kalim HaNoyig B'Meis. It says utensils, Kalim that touch the mace. Our Mishnah says that a kalim that are touching a mace also has halacha that another damagaleach. So Zakti Gemara, Hani kalim b'nei azah inun. Is it yitachin to say that a person that touches these kalim that touch the mace has to have azah sefer apara? The Mishnah is talking about a kliyetz. He touched a kliyetz, a wooden keli. And when those kalim touch a mace, the halacha is it becomes an avatama, and somebody that touches that is only a rishon latama, and he's only tamei until ad eref, and he doesn't need hazah b'chlal in such a case. So Zak the Gemara el shma mina that this that the Mishnah says a maza b'shlishi b'shvi. So Zak the Gemara, this that our Mishnah says that his maza shlishi b'shvi is not going. It's going ashara. It's going on the other tumas that the Mishnah counts. So ibizoy the guy with tumas eretz ha'amim. You could also say that it's not going on tumas eretz ha'amim. That if somebody goes to tumas eretz ha'amim, he does not need hazah shlishi shvi from Eifar Para, because maybe I could tell you it's out his tummy out avir and nothing to do with tumas meis. And this and obviously wouldn't be going on the kalim also, like we just said, because tamikli eats and would not need hazah sefer para. So it's going on the other tumas of the Mishnah list, and you have no raya to the shaila. Is it al tzavir or al tzgusha?